Support for this podcast comes from St. Alphonsus Sports Medicine, offering services for sports injury and recovery, with physicians and athletic trainers who provide treatment for fractures, dislocations, sprains, strains, and other sports-related issues. More information on services at stalphonsus.org. Love Boise State Public Radio podcasts? They are free to enjoy, but not free to produce. If you can give, your support helps keep shows like Idaho Matters and Scandalize available to everyone. Donate now at boisestatepublicradio.org.
It's the Connector, Idaho Daily News from Boise State Public Radio, Thursday, May 7th. I'm Troy Oppie. Here are today's headlines. The State Tax Commission says there's still money available for the Parental Choice Tax Credit Program. Most of Idaho's constitutional officers have endorsed a candidate in a single legislative Senate race, and new research paints a clearer picture of the number of layoffs of the federal workforce last year. But first on the pod today, Boise Mayor Lauren McLean emphasized long-term investments in city neighborhoods and the need for affordable housing in her annual State of the City address. Here's Julie Luquetta with more.
The second-term mayor started her speech acknowledging tough economic times.
Gas and groceries are more expensive. The daily news can be alarming. Residents are tired. They're worried.
And the challenges of meeting the needs of a growing community.
When cost rise as the city grows, the math gets harder.
McLean highlighted the city's largest investment, housing, including meeting its goal of building 1,250 affordable homes by 2027.
And 250 homes for folks exiting homelessness.
She called small businesses the heartbeat of Boise and talked about the importance of public spaces and infrastructure, like the city's program for free summer bus passes for youth and a new car-free pathway linking downtown to the Warm Springs neighborhood.
These investments create connections between home and work and helps us ensure that Boise remains a safe and welcoming city for everyone as we grow.
McLean also announced $2 million in seed funding for library access in West Boise, the launching of a City Hall in Your Neighborhood program, and a slow zone pilot project in the North End. Julie Luquetta, Boise State Public Radio News.
Nearly every elected official in Idaho's constitutional offices, governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, state controller, and superintendent of public instruction, simultaneously this week endorsed East Idaho State Senate incumbent Jim Guthrie. Guthrie chairs the Senate's State Affairs Committee, and the District 28 Republican has come under fire from some in his own party for voting opposite the GOP caucus at times or refusing to advance legislation to a full committee hearing. Committee chairs have this power. It's sometimes referred to as a chairman's drawer veto. Boise State Associate Professor of Political Science Jacqueline Kettler says these types of endorsements can be helpful cues to primary voters, but
it also sets these constitutional officials in an interesting contrast with Attorney General Raul Labrador, who endorsed Guthrie's opponent. These types of dueling endorsements can demonstrate some of the splits that we see within the majority Republican Party.
The District 28 race in East Idaho is also one of the most expensive legislative battles so far this cycle. Guthrie is sitting on $137,000 in his campaign fund. Worley, his opponent, has raised $41,000, according to campaign finance data from the Secretary of State's office. Election day is May 19th. Early voting is already underway in most Idaho counties. Professor Kettler will be our guest on Morning Edition May 20th, joining us throughout that morning to discuss results from the upcoming primary election. The State Tax Commission says it's still processing applications for the new $50 million Parental Choice Tax Credit Program, despite the deadline to apply having come and gone 6 weeks ago. But the Commission is likely to reopen the application window as more than $7 million remains available, according to in-progress data shared by the Tax Commission. Spokesperson Renee Iman says the only releasable demographic data they have for the more than 6,000 families who applied for the credit so far is that fewer than half, about 2,700 families, were at or below an adjusted gross income of 3 times the federal poverty level. This was the group prioritized to receive the tax credit, up to $5,000 per student for private school tuition or homeschool costs or other educational needs, according to the program guidelines. Critics, including legislative Democrats, say they're being blocked from accessing meaningful data about applicants, including the number of families applying for students with disabilities or whether students have previously attended public school. Representative James Ruckty told Idaho Ed News, quote, "If the data that they have available to them was helpful to this voucher program, we'd be seeing it right now," unquote. Iman, in an email to Boise State Public Radio, says some demographic data will be included in an annual report to lawmakers in the next session. The federal workforce shrank by 10% last year, according to Pew Research. Now, a new analysis by some of those former workers reveals the decrease included about 6,000 public lands staffers from our region. Mountain West News Bureau's Rachel Cohen has more.
The total number of public lands workers who left due to layoffs, retirements, and other departures was compiled by consulting firms made up of former federal employees. Andrea Delgado was a deputy regional forester in Colorado until last October. She combed through public federal workforce data and found declines across agencies, including the Bureau of Land Management and U.S. Geological Survey.
We're talking about engineers who keep trails, roads, and bridges safe to travel on and hike on, the hydrologists who monitor snowpack and watersheds, biologists who track fish and wildlife.
The drops in public lands workers range from an 11% decline in Wyoming to 26% in Colorado, compared to the number of employees in 2024. For the Mountain West News Bureau, I'm Rachel Cohen.
The opioid settlement between U.S. states and territories and Purdue Pharma and its owners, the Sackler family, has been finalized. Idaho Attorney General Raul Labrador, in a statement yesterday, confirmed that Idaho's portion of the overall $7.4 billion settlement will be $24.4 million. That's the same amount announced last July when the settlement agreement was first released. The bulk of the settlement will be paid out in 3 installments starting this month and ending in May of 2028. The finalization ends government litigation against the now bankrupt company and its owners for their role in fueling the opioid addiction crisis. The settlement also requires the public release of millions of pages of documents related to opioid manufacturing and marketing by Purdue Pharma and the Sacklers. The state of Idaho earlier this week announced it was taking public feedback on how the state should spend opioid settlement funds. You can read more about that at our website, boisestatepublicradio.org. The Ada County Highway District is proposing significant increases in the fees charged for development services, like road surveys, event or construction-related closures, and reviews of developer plans related to road design. Most fees are doubling in the ACHD proposal, and some services would cost money for the first time if the updated fee table is adopted. It's the first major overhaul of ACHD's service fee structure since 2018, and the first time in recent memory, according to the agency, that an outside consultant was hired to help determine appropriate fees in order to recover the costs of work done by the department. Fines would go up too. Working without a permit is currently a $500 penalty. That amount increases to $5,000 in the proposed update. The fees are for specific services offered by ACHD. They are not impact fees charged to developers for growth. Those were increased last fall. The public will get a chance to weigh in on the proposed changes anytime through feedback on the ACHD website or at a public hearing planned May 27th at ACHD headquarters. Athletic Club Boise, in its first short week match in franchise history, traveled across the country after Saturday's win, but AC Boise lost 1-0 last night to Charlotte. The game was scoreless until the 81st minute when the Independents got a header over Boise goalie Jonathan Clewar. Boise will be back at home next Wednesday against FC Naples. That's your connector on this Thursday morning. Our series Expressive Idaho is back today. That's where we introduce you to some of the most creative and unique folks on Idaho's landscape. You can find previous episodes at our website, boisestatepublicradio.org. New episodes will be available online starting this afternoon, and you can catch new episodes live on our air during Morning Edition each Thursday morning for the next several weeks. I'm Troy Oppie. Thanks for listening. Go make it a great day.
You know, every day on Up First, NPR's Golden Globe-nominated morning news podcast, we bring you 3 essential stories. At the heart of each story are questions. What really happened? What really mattered? What happens next? At NPR, we stand for your right to be curious and to follow the facts. Follow Up First wherever you get your podcasts and start your day knowing what matters and why.